Hi everybody, welcome to FABEDhacks. I'm Rosemary, and in this video I'm answering YouTube's call for videos which will help with the stay-at-home effort by offering viewers content they can do with what they have on hand. So they can stay home and, for example, cook, work out, yoga, dance, or in this case, craft with me. Today I have some spring farmhouse DIYs which, along with being inspired by Kirkland's, are also made from recycled materials, household items, and even some natural outdoor material, making them perfect stay-at-home and craft with me projects. The first inspiration are these beautiful potpourri jars from Kirkland's and some pretty springtime potpourri. To make the jars, I'm using this 1.25 liter Coke bottle, a small 4-ounce deli container, and then this large pickle jar. So the first thing I did was just remove the label. And then once that was taken off, I could go ahead and cut just the top of the bottle off. So I'm using a utility knife and I'm just going along that bottom ridge and removing the top piece. Then I took some painter's tape and I just cut some small pieces and then placed those at the bottom of the cutoff. And I'm doing this in every other section. You can see there where there's little indentations creating different sections. There's 10 sections altogether on this bottle at the top of the bottle. So what I want to do is just place those pieces of tape there at the bottom, and then I'm going to place another piece of tape at the top of those ridges. So if you can see that the ridges kind of end there at the top before they go to the top of the bottle, and I'm going to just add another piece of tape there at the top because I want to just create a mark for myself to cut between when I'm going to cut out the holes for the potpourri bottle. And so I want to place that bottle down on my work surface and use my utility knife to again cut right down in that section where the indentation is. And I want to cut from the bottom of the top piece of tape to the top of the bottom piece of tape. And I don't want to hold it like this where I'm showing you there. I want to make sure that it's down on the table. We don't need any more hospital visits, right? We want to keep the hospitals. We want to stay home and stay safe. So make sure that that's down on the bottom when you're cutting those slits, and then that enables you to just put your scissors in the slits and be able to cut off the top and bottom pieces so that you can create those nice little holes there for your potpourri jar lid. And I'm doing that in every other section. To create some ornamentation for the top, I'm going to just use this little golf ball. It's a little Dollar Tree golf ball that I have, and I'm going to add that with some E6000 glue in the middle and then some hot glue around that. The hot glue will give it an instant hold, while the E6000 will give it a more permanent hold. And you can use whatever you have on hand. A marble, a ping pong ball, or even a smaller bottle cap would also work well here. Then I'm going to take my small plastic container. I think this had grated cheese in it at one time. And then I'm going to just add some E6000 glue there to the top of that lid. So this is on the top of the lid that I'm placing this. And then also some hot glue also to the top in between. And then I'm going to just put those two pieces together, hold them in place until that hot glue is set. And then I'm going to take both my topper and my base and paint them with 3 coats of white chalk paint. To make the potpourri for the jar, as the jar filler, my daughter and I went out yesterday and took a walk in the park and found all these great natural materials. So this one here was kind of on a branch that was hanging down off of a tree. So it so nicely, nature so nicely dehydrated and dried these for us. So all we had to do was kind of snap them off the tree. And then here is a branch that has some moss covering on it. So it gives a nice pretty green shade. These berries as well were on a tree where the one branch had kind of broken off and it was just kind of hanging there drying in the sun. So those are great for a potpourri filler as well. And then we were able to get these. This was wonderful. I was afraid to touch it. I didn't know what it was. Oh, I hope this thing isn't alive. But my daughter assured me that it was just some form of moss, and so we picked that one up. And then just pieces of bark that were great, nice and easy to break off and break up. So these make great potpourri filler. And then we also had some of these little I think they call them seed balls that come off of the tree that is in front of my house. So those worked great. And then just some more pieces of moss off the side of a tree, which we're able to just kind of bunch them up and make little moss balls. So those are great. And then that's pretty much it. The rest are kind of repeats of the previous ones that I showed you, bark and moss and that type of thing. But the berries would have been great in the color that they are. They're kind of just like a dark purplish brown color, which would have been great for the fall. But since this is for a spring potpourri, I wanted to lighten them up a bit. So I did go ahead and paint those. Kind of a mix of ivory and white so that I can kind of get an off-white color. And then I'm going to just go ahead and remove those from the stems the way I'm doing here. So I'm going to add those in and get them mixed in. You can see right away how those are, bringing a nice light springy touch to those potpourri materials. And then I also took the little seed balls, I'm pretty sure that's what they're called, that that fall off the tree. And again, just painted those in that same kind of off-white color. And then I just had some of these old flowers that I had, these little flowers. Just wanted to give them a little bit of a pink hue, a little bright and springy look to my potpourri. And then I'm just using some of these essential oils. I thought Serenity and Stress Free might be one of the two. I did just go with the Serenity one. We just need a little Serenity right now. A little Stress Free would be perfect. And then I just added, you can kind of scent this however you like. If you have essential oils on hand or just want to do it scent free, that's also an option. But it was amazing how well I have this in my bedroom, and it is amazing how well this is smelling. I couldn't believe it. I've never made homemade potpourri before, so I wasn't really sure, how this would work, but it worked pretty good. And then I just went back and artfully arranged these. So you want to kind of go in, you don't want to dump them in because you do want to kind of make sure that you're getting all those elements showing up at the front of your jar so that you can see it on the outside. And so I'm just making sure that I have the flowers and the berries and the little white seed balls that are interspersed between the moss and the wood bark and the leaves and all those things so that I can get a nice even display of all the elements in my potpourri. And here you can see the finished product. I have made sure, like I said, that all the elements were represented evenly. And now I'm going to just do some distressing to my base and topper. So there you can see what they look like after 3 coats of the chalk paint. And now I'm just taking a makeup sponge and some black paint that I've pretty much dabbed the makeup sponge into the black paint and then quickly removed the black paint so that I'm just getting a very teeny bit of the black paint on this sponge, and then I'm just going onto all the edges, so the edges on the interior of the little windows there for the potpourri at the top, and then also around the top of the cap and on the ball. So just kind of wisping it over the edges of the different elements of this lid. So again, on the edges, on the edge of the bottom, around the ball, and also on the edges of the cap itself. And then this just gives it a nice distressed look. And then maybe even just a little bit of brushing it a little bit over the tops of the sides of the holder. And you can do this as much or as little as you prefer. It's personal choice. And then I'm going to go ahead and repeat the process on the base, again going along the edges of the base where the little ridges are on the bottom, and then also along the top. And then I'm going to attach my jar to my base by using some E6000 glue, and then just place it on top. And here we have the before and after. So on the left hand side are the KIRKLAND'S inspiration pieces, and on the right hand side is the version made from the recycled materials. Now of course the KIRKLAND'S versions are much better quality, but for pretty much the price of paint and glue, you can make a pretty nice version. Next is one of my favorite and one of the easiest farmhouse dupes you can make. which is using anything with a raised surface to paint over it and then distress over the raised surface. And in this case, the inspiration is coming from this KIRKLAND'S Bud Vase. For this version, I'm going to be using this Martinelli's apple juice bottle. Now, what's great about these bottles is that they have all of this raised lettering and also this raised leaf motif at the top. And these juices are sold at most supermarkets. You get them right in the apple juice aisle. And I'm going to just paint those with a couple, 2-3 coats of this chalk paint and then just distress over the raised lettering. So here you see where I have already painted 3 coats of that chalk paint on top of the bottle. And now I'm just going back with a sanding block or just some sandpaper, anything that's going to enable you to kind of remove it from the top or kind of just go over that raised, lettering and the raised motif. And you could even use a nail file if you don't have any sandpaper or one of these blocks on hand. And you can just go right over the tops and you're just kind of removing that top layer of paint over the top of the artwork or the lettering. And then it gives you this great distressed farmhouse look. You can go all the way around. In this case, it has some lettering on the back as well. And so just removing that top layer of paint gives you this great farmhouse look. And then you can just add some fresh or fake flowers. And here you can see how well that technique enables you to achieve that great distressed farmhouse look. The inspiration for this third project comes from KIRKLAND'S beautiful antique white floral candle holder. So for this DIY, I'm going to use the lid to this jar candle. I don't need the bottom part, just the lid. And for the base, I'm going to reuse the candlestick from this previous DIY. I've already loosened it up to remove the topper here. This was from a previous DIY I did on my channel. And I wanted to reuse this for a couple of reasons. One, I just thought it was too pretty to kind of cover up with a candle. And then secondly, I got an excellent suggestion from a viewer to actually make coasters out of these. So I'm going to be repurposing that top as well for those purposes, but I will go ahead and use the base for this project. And just as an aside, when I made the base in the previous video, all I did was take a Dollar Tree candlestick and painted it with several coats of the white chalk paint. Then I just took a small amount of the black paint and went along the edges and raised corners to distress. In addition, I will be repurposing these flowers that I have on hand. These days, fake flowers are often so realistic that I will sometimes use them along with the real flowers and greens in potted plants. This way I get a fuller plant with less cost. But of course, they will eventually fade in the sun, so that's when they get repurposed for projects like this. As you can see between these two, the one on the left-hand side was in more direct sunlight while the other one was kind of underneath, and so you can see how much the sun really affects these flowers. But for this project, it will work great since I'm going to be painting them anyway. And so I'm just going to go through the stems and just kind of take off pieces of the greenery as well as pieces of the flower with some stem attached, and then also just the buds. Next, I'm going to be attaching these with both E6000 and hot glue. First, I will apply dabs of E6000 to the side bottom of the lid. And then I will take some hot glue and put that on top of those. Now this is so that, again, I get the instant hold of the hot glue as well as the long-term hold of the E6000. Then I'm going to just start with the greenery and add that to the hot glue and E6000 and just kind of hold that in place until that hot glue is set. And then go back and repeat the process all the way around the lid. Next, I'm going to take the flowers with the stems and attach them in the same way, first using E6000 and then a dab of hot glue. And I'm going to be placing these in between each of my green stems. And then after all of the stemmed flowers have been attached, I'm going to go back and add the bud flowers, and I'm going to really try to cover where all those kinds of globs of glue were from the previous applications. Once everything was on, I kind of felt like it was a little bit too bushy, and so I went back and removed some of the flowers, added in even some of the smaller flowers from the original stems, just so that I could get it to look more in line with my original inspiration piece. And here it is with all the flowers attached. And I wanted to just show this to you before I painted it, just because it does look pretty without the painted flowers. Probably would have painted the base first, but I just wanted to give you an idea of what it would look like without the paint. But I'm going to go ahead and paint it with a couple coats of this white spray paint. And this is what it looks like after I did paint it a couple of times. I was having some difficulty getting the paint into all the little ridges, so I decided to go ahead and just use some brush paint to get into all of those little crevices. Even this, though, took quite a bit of time and paint, and I really was having difficulty still getting all of the pink covered. So I decided that I was going to do it in a more of a pink hued finish and not go for the total whiteout. But that can definitely be done. It would just require, kind of going back and making sure all of that pink is covered. A better option, of course, would be to use white flowers. You would still want to paint them because you want to have that texture to them, that more hardened texture. But you can definitely achieve that all white look if that's what you prefer. And then once the paint was dry, I attached the lid to the base using some E6000 glue. Now I'm just going to go back again with a makeup sponge and some black paint to just go around the edges of the flowers and the leaves to create that distressed look. Now here's the before and after, and you can see where the original used a much smaller flower. It was less dense, and it also had a little bird, and it was in a more of an ivory color. But again, we're using what we have on hand, and I just had these larger flowers. But if you did want to go more to the original, you would need to do something more along those lines. But I think the duplicate looks pretty cute as well. I hope you have enjoyed this stay at home and craft with me video. As we go through the next few weeks, I will be publishing more videos using recycled, household, or natural materials, or items you can get from the grocery store. In the meantime, some other suggestions on projects using recyclables can be found in this video on organization ideas made from things like toilet paper rolls, Clorox wipe containers, and Amazon shipping boxes. Or you can give your bathroom a makeover using items like milk cartons, popcorn tins, and more toilet paper rolls. Another idea would be to make some edible crafts with items you can get from the grocery store, like pretzel sticks and marshmallows. These are easy and no bake and great to do with the kids. I will provide links to these in the description box below. Thank you for watching, and please stay well, stay safe, and stay home. See you next time.